Welcome everybody this evening to the Tuesday, October 15th, 2019 City Council meeting. We'll start with a roll call. In the absence of Mayor Gahn, as the Deputy Mayor, I will be running the meeting this evening. And we also have excused Tom Mayer and Nicole Dooley. Nicole Cody, excuse me. The Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that's number 1 and 2. Item number 3 is the public forum. Do we have anybody from the, would you please approach the podium and state your name while you're here?
Angela Tracy. And I'm here on behalf of my sisters. We inherited some property from my father before he passed, and the woman that was living in the home did not pay the taxes, and we just recently had found out. And I'm just trying to see if there's a way to get it in a further date to pay the taxes, or...
Information on this, or is this the new?
The property that Ms. Tracy was talking about was one of those that we put out for bid with all the other tax-acquired properties this year. And so far we haven't received any bids for the properties. So if they would like to submit information for the council to consider, we can bring that at a future time for you to look at.
Is that understandable to you?
I kind of didn't really hear you, but
Basically, we can work with you,
you can work with me.
bring
And
it
my
back to the
sisters.
council
Do I have to come through this or through upstairs?
through the council.
Okay.
Bring it to you first, and then it would come to the council, correct?
Right.
Yeah, bring it through the city management, and then whatever you propose or
Okay.
come to us for approval.
So is this going to happen now or just at a later date? I'm kind of confused
Be
here.
at a later date, you would have to come back and speak with the city administration, the manager, or Carl, and
Because I'm not sure how long it would take us to find the money, so that's all it's...
So I met with her, it was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the 3 years back taxes plus 2019 taxes, it'd be about $3,206.34. So we had enough to bid for a minimum bid of $8,500. In the past, we sold it to family members. If you want to consider that for that amount, and then work with her over a period of time.
so I guess it's up to you to come back to the city administration,
Come back to another meeting?
come back and speak with.
Okay.
So where we don't have a firm number from you as far as actual amount that you'd be paying, we just need to have something in writing and a time frame that the council can say, yes, we're willing to accept that amount. Their next meeting will be in 2 weeks.
So
So
if I come back in 2 weeks with somebody else with me, would that be easier for me?
if you'll just work with me and Carl Grant, our financial officer, we can help you formalize what you're wanting to do so that when it comes back to the council, hopefully in 2 weeks, you can get a final decision.
Okay. Sounds...
Come see me and then work out things. Let me know what you want to do.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. So I don't have to stay?
Nope.
Thank you. I'll come see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Does anybody else have any public forum before the council? Okay. That's that. Number 4, bidding openings, awards, and appointments. The first one, we have the recognition of Penny Thompson for IAAO certifications.
Council, Ms. Thompson is actually, she was on vacation this weekend and on the way home had to be delayed and cannot attend tonight. We'd like to bring her back when she's available, and on the next agenda we'll recognize her. She does a lot of good things in our assessing office, but if we could table that to the next meeting.
Okay, we'll table that till the next meeting. And B, recognition of Holly Duty for City Treasurer Certification.
Oh. Carl, and you and Holly want to maybe just talk to the council about what it takes and introduce Holly for.
Come right up.
Holly's our deputy treasurer. She gets certified. It takes about 3 to 5 years to get certified. You have to do a number of classes, like 5 classes that are standard, are mandatory, and then there's 3 other classes that you have to take that are optional. They give you a whole list, and then you have to be in the position for at least 3 to 5 years. So she was able to meet all the requirements and recognized next May through the Tax Collectors and Treasurers Association. Congratulations.
Did you get a picture of all the papers here?
Sure.
Absolutely, with a photo.
Yeah.
How would you like to do this?
I can stand behind you, right?
How do we want to do it first? Front, or how do we? No film?
We got it. All right. Bear with me here. All right. Thank you. Congratulations.
Item 5 on the agenda, we have public hearings and possible action items. Ordinance number 3, 2019 series, changing general assistance rate. Jane and Dennis, please.
Are you opening the public hearing?
Oh, I'll open the public hearing, excuse me. I'll open the public hearing at 6:07 p.m.
Annually, the general assistance rates need to be updated to stay in compliance with the state. And we need to stay in compliance with the state so we can get reimbursement for general assistance at 70%. So the city of Caribou spends the money, and then we get reimbursed 70% of that actual expenditure going to the clients. For Connor Township, we get reimbursed 100%. Now, every year, these overall maximums that are listed here, this is like the income for an individual. So if someone has an income of $640, someone getting SSI, and they live with 1 or 2 people, they're probably not eligible for general assistance because they would be getting somewhere close to $800. You can see that overall maximum is $640 and $696. The food did not change, I believe, from last year. If it did, it only changed like one area. The electricity amounts, very small changes. I said last month, or the last time we met, that the biggest change was the increase in burial and cremation maximums. And our cremation maximum went up from $1,000 to $1,025, and our burial went from $1,125 to $1,475, and the burial urn went from 50 to 55. We do probably 2 cremations a year. So, if you have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for anybody regarding this ordinance in the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:10 p.m. What are the wishes of council?
Move to accept.
Second.
A motion to move and to accept ordinance number 3, 2019, changing the general assistance rate. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Hopefully, there's no opposition tonight,
Motion carries.
or it will fail.
Yeah. Motion carries unanimously with a quorum. Okay, so under new business. Discussion and possible action regarding 2019 election items. Jane?
Yes, I wrote a memo, and we have the individual items I have is the approval of the notice of the municipal election for the city, countersign warrant and notice of election for the RSU 39 referendum election, approve an 8 o'clock opening time for the November 5th, 2019 state referendum, municipal, and RSU 39 referendum election, and appoint Jane R. Farren as election warden and Danielle N. McLaughlin as deputy warden, election warden for the November 5th, 2019 state referendum, municipal, RSU 39 referendum election. Yeah, I'd hope that you would do each one of those items, approve it.
You want to do individually? Is that what?
I don't think it's necessary.
Not necessary. It's not necessary. What are the wishes of council? Do we have a motion from council?
Move this late.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept items 1 through 4. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Under new business, we also have item 6B, discussion regarding reimbursement agreement with Corvair.
So, council, you may recall that the city had a backup power generator that we essentially sold to Corvair, and they were going to install that in order to help with some of the power issues over at their facility. The city entered into a contract with them such that we would also help with the installation costs of that generator, so long as Corvair was able to demonstrate that they were able to hire at least 3 new people each year for the next 3 years. The cost of installing the generator was roughly $52,000, and the agreement anticipated that they would be reimbursed roughly $14,000 each year for the next, as I said, 3 years. And the agreement outlines that each September, Corvair would provide to the city a breakdown of their personnel, their payroll basically, and we would be able to confirm whether or not the target employment numbers were met. After this first year of the contract, Corvair submitted their information and they were not able to meet the 3 additional employee threshold that the agreement anticipated. Mr. Devamika is here tonight. He can maybe discuss that more with you. And essentially they're asking that the city council reconsider a portion of the agreement. Right now it says that they either get all 3 new employees to get a reimbursement or nothing. And so one of the requests is for the council to consider allowing a proportionate amount of reimbursement going forward, so that if they do have 1 new employee or 2 new employees, they would still get a partial reimbursement for the costs associated with this project. Also, the generator, knowing, I guess at this point, that the work still needs to be done, the employment threshold was not met, but still anticipating additional growth within the company, discussing extending the contract another year, so they'd be able to recoup the full cost of the project. And I think the third item that they would like for the council to consider is the ability to get a full reimbursement for this first year with these other amendments being in place, so that they can recoup some of the costs that they've incurred with all advertising for the positions. They just haven't been able to get the responses from their advertisements the way they desired. But as I said, Mr. Mika is here tonight, and he can answer any questions that you might have with what's happening at Porver and the requested amendments.
Is there any questions for Mr. Nika, please?
I've got a couple of questions for you. Now, you have not installed the generator yet, right?
It's not completely installed. The piping and the slab is in place. The generator is
So
at
you're in the process.
in the process. It is scheduled to be complete at the end of October.
Okay. Also, it says here that during the past year, you've lost 6 employees, but you've added 7.
Correct.
Are those employees that you've lost, did they go out on their own? Were there any layoffs? Were there any firings?
We had 2 people that were laid off. We had 1 person we had to let go, and everybody else was voluntary quit.
Okay, so I guess I'm wondering why you laid off 2 people if you had, did you lay them off so that you could, it looks like you laid them off so that you could hire a couple extra. I guess I'm not seeing why you laid off 2 people and then added more employees. Were they in a different?
They're in different positions.
Okay, so the 7 new employees that you hired, are they in the same pay area? Are they less? Are they more?
If you look at, did they get a copy of what I submitted?
Provide payroll information in their package.
Okay, well, I'll say,
Did it increase your overall payroll?
well, I want to make sure, I'm going to look at, because I took copies of everything. I don't know if you want to supply them with copies so they can all see it, or is that too detailed?
The agreement was that would be a confidential information. to the
Okay,
city,
I didn't
so-
know what confidential meant with the board or not
Yes.
with the board.
I guess just say, with the 6 employees that you lost and the 7 that you added, did you go down in your payroll or did you go up in your payroll?
I'll give you a quick yes or no. Well, we lost 1 person that was making a pretty good salary, and we've been trying to recruit to replace that person since the last November.
So he went out
On his own,
volition.
yes.
Okay.
So we've been hiring, we're trying to hire somebody. We have recruiters trying to relocate somebody here. We also have ads in the paper. We've been advertising since May. We go through the Bangor paper. We also been advertising the 2 local papers here. We've been having a very, very difficult time trying to hire certain skilled people. We're also having a very difficult time trying to hire even factory workers. Some people apply, they don't show up, they don't pass the drug tests. So it's a very, very, we're in a very, very difficult position right now to hire. We have an ad right now that's in the paper. We have 4 people that applied. 2 showed up, and then you call them back to see if they're interested. They're not interested, so you just keep, advertising all the time. It costs us about $2,700 every time we advertise, and that's just for 2 weeks. So we've been putting out a lot of expense to try to continuously recruit. We want good quality people there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure.
Any other avenues you use to recruit other than?
Well, we go word of mouth. We go through the paper, and we go through recruiters. We're also going through the local temp agencies.
I only bring this up. I have a website I use. It's free. I get a lot of inquiries. I could pass that along to you afterwards if you'd like. I mean,
Fine. I mean,
it's free, and I get a ton. responses.
Sure.
And they'll pre-screen them for you, and we use the paper just to kind of throw the bat signal out there, but you get more hits through the internet than anything.
Well, we do have through the Bangor, it's on their classified ads. We have put ads in Indeed and Monster and things like that, and just have not been successful.
Okay. All right.
And we have a very nice ad that's in the paper. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's a very, we've had 3 different types of ads. We've had a very generic ad because we've been instructed to try to hire additional people because of growth so that we're ready, because we're having such a difficult time trying to hire somebody. There's the ad there. That was the last one that we put in. It was, we're looking for an engineering and quality technician and also manufacturing workers. And then we had one ad that was just very generic, that we're looking for anybody, all positions, because of the growth that we're anticipating. That's probably our biggest dilemma right now when it comes to running the business, is people. I think everybody, not only here in this area, but everybody's having the same problem. So because of the installation, it's around, I think it's $59,000, and it's for 4 years. And I think the first year is around $14,700. And so we're looking if we can either amend the contract to maybe prorate it, if possible, to help us out in the installation, or maybe pay for the first year and then rewrite something for the second and the third and the fourth year.
Any more questions from council for Mr. Mika?
Where this is a first read, my preference would be that we consider this again when we have 3 more counselors here.
Yep. I can agree with that.
That's fair.
Okay.
We'll put this on we'll move this to the next agenda meeting.
Is there some general thoughts, if I could, just, if we're going to bring it back to you, we want to be able to bring back something that is worth consideration.
I would support a partial reimbursement and extending. They're trying.
Yeah, I would consider a partial reimbursement and extending it, but maybe with, a little bit more emphasis on getting it done next, having to have all the items, the employees and things in place next year. But I would support.
I believe the way the contract was written, that it's for 4 years, and that every year we would add 3 people every single
Right.
year. Yeah.
And then the next year to get the reimbursement, you'd have to add the 3.5 to make.
It's
Yeah,
So it would be
you'd have to make up the, if
make
there's
up
a-
for the year before and the second year.
we have we started off at, I think it was 44 people, and we have 46 now. So we're missing it by 1 for the last year. So next year, if it could be prorated or get a full reimbursement for the first year, we'd have to make it for 4. Yeah.
And the reason why it's 3.5 in the staff memo was that they did convert a part-time position to a full-time position, which in a sense is adding another half of an employee to their payroll. So that's why next year they'd only be looking at needing the 3 plus a half.
So where are we at on this? Do we have a motion? Is it a motion or no? Where do we table it?
I think we can. I think we can table it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll take what I'm hearing and at least draft something for the council to consider on your next agenda.
Excuse me, I do have a question about the half a person. The person was a half a person, and we lost a quality person, so we had to put that part-time person full-time position, and that was done last year. So wouldn't that count for a full person? Because that's the way we looked at it, not a half a person.
Well, so you and I can get together,
Okay.
review your payroll again, and we'll
I would
make sure we bring it back.
I myself would consider a partial reimbursement as well, but I'd like to see if you could put something together, like you had mentioned,
Okay.
for the next meeting, maybe with some payroll numbers, even if we have to go into.
Yeah,
executive session.
Dennis has everything, I think, that he needs. It's just, putting something together that everybody feels comfortable and agreeing to and approving. That's it? Okay, thank you very much.
Shamika. Okay, that takes care of the old business, adoption of ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution adopting a city fee schedule. Dennis, I believe this is a revised edition from the last.
This is a revised edition from the what you reviewed before. One of the big points of discussion during the last meeting was the regards to the building permit fees. And so what we've done right now is we've just left the building permit fees where they're at. And other than that, there are there's a new fee being proposed for the hangar B, which is the main hangar, of $2,800. If anybody wants to go in and occupy the office lease space, that would be negotiable. I went through the exercise of looking at if we were going to try to balance the airport budget on the backs of the hangar occupants, we basically would have to quadruple the fees for the hangar space. And we're pretty confident that that's not in this market as far as being able to occupy those hangar spaces. For right now, the main concern is, as far as the fees are concerned, is just getting an annual fee set for the main hangar. We've had somebody express interest in being in there on an annual basis. And so that takes care of the airport. The fees for the fire and ambulance department, the new fees we're looking at there would be a new fee for non-mutual aid community ambulance charge, meaning that if it's a community that we don't have a contract with or we don't have mutual aid agreements in place for and we respond out there, then we would charge the community itself $500 for that run.
Per run.
Per run.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Above and beyond the normal charge of an ambulance.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And what's that up from?
We don't have it in place right now.
Also, it was zero.
Was
Right.
0, okay.
The other fee that's being proposed is that if we have a contract in place with the community and we respond, but we do not transport the patient, right now we leave the scene, we come back, there's no reimbursement. And so we're proposing that a new fee be imposed that if we run out there and we don't transport, we again would charge that community for our time and effort and any materials that we had, which is estimated at $313 per run to those other communities.
And then that does not affect the final transport cost.
Well, in these cases, we wouldn't be transporting,
It wouldn't be transported
but we would at least recoup our cost for running out there and coming back.
It's like a truck charge,
Yes,
and that's up from 0.
yes. The state law recently changed that allowed us to charge more for some of the clerk services. I don't know if you want to touch on that, Jane.
Well, the municipal agent fee for doing renewals for Caribou residents, we're proposing to go from the $3 that it has been to $5, which is permitted since September 17th or 19th. 19th. And then the renewals for Connor Township would go from 4 to 6. These have not changed since I've worked here in the 12-plus years. And I'm not sure how many years they've been at this rate. We did, years ago, it was about $18,000 in collecting them at $3 and $4 a pop. So this is our costs have gone up over that period of time. A running of the office, our wages. And if they don't care to pay the fee, they can go down to motor vehicle and not pay the $5 or $6. And the other two I have for vital record search and lineage verification. We've been at the rate for $5 and $2 since 2010.
I have a question really regarding the rate, because maybe find this a vital record search,
Yes,
$5 or $6. If
yes.
it's non-certified copy, so you still have to pay to get certified. You always have to.
This is genealogy research. If you want me to look up your family and we're doing it's a non-certified copy, and I'm doing the research, whether or not I find the record or not, you're paying for the search. That's the $6, the $5. But you would get a non-certified copy if I find the record. But you still need to pay even if I don't find the record.
Is there a difference of cost for a certified copy?
Certified copy is there up under
Be miscellaneous.
vital records, birth, death, marriages, $15, and that's set by the state for certified copies.
Okay, that's so if you wanted to choose. Okay.
Right, and the non-certified copy is people that are doing genealogy research. They don't need a certified copy. So,
Well, thank you for clarifying that for me.
yep.
Anything else on here we need to?
All the other fees that are in this document, I guess the only other one that we would propose making changes on would be the demolition permit, changing that from $25 to $25, but that is only imposed if they did not come in advance to get the permit. Otherwise, it's zero. We've seen a large number of people coming in ahead of time and getting the demolition permit where it's zero cost, which has really helped with our records management and our property valuations. But we want to say if you didn't get the permit ahead of time, there is, in a sense, a penalty fee for that, which is the $250. All the other fees that are currently on here, they exist now and have been charged or assessed for services as people come in and request those services. We can bring this back to you as often as necessary, and we just want to start going through this process now of having a fee schedule every year, at least, adopted annually. But like I said, if things come up, a fee needs to change, or we need to add a fee, or somebody wants to come and say, please don't charge that fee anymore, we can bring those back to the council anytime.
How often does the state change their mandates on once a year on some of these fees?
Some of these they don't look at for many years.
And then they change
It's $10 under a recording of a proprietorship, $10. When I worked in 1982, it was $10.
Since we've seen these twice, I'd make a motion we accept as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the City of Caribou fee schedule as presented. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Clarification. Is that effective immediately for those that are other than the two that are in there for 2020?
Oh,
Effective immediately, great.
effective immediately.
Prices go up tomorrow. Thank you.
How about at 10 o'clock, because I have something.
Do you mad rush before the...
Actually, I'm not really changing Tria, so we might be able to.
Danielle knows where to change it.
You got it down.
Be there at 7:30 in the morning.
Getting that all changed. Perfect. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah.
Item 7B, resolution authorizing public works funds to the reserve account. believe we spoke about this briefly at the last meeting, but it wasn't on the agenda, so.
Right. And so the council directed us to bring back a resolution which would make it possible for us to take the funds which were related to the chip seal projects, which were not fully completed this year, and to set those aside in a reserve fund so that they could be applied toward chip seal processes next year.
Motion to accept?
Second?
It's moved and seconded to accept the resolution, the unencumbered appropriations. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Put that where it needs to be. This is Item 7C, authorization of manager to accept property conveyance from Sitel. Yes?
Councilors, I would recommend that we go through the executive session part of our agenda before considering this resolution. If we could
Okay.
table that to later on in this meeting.
We table that, we'll title item 7C under, after the executive session.
Okay.
Okay. So the ordinance, 7D, ordinance number 3, series changing general assistance rates. And I believe this is an ordinance, and we'll need to set a public hearing. But
Actually, this one you've already taken care of.
this one we took care of already?
That was today, yep.
We skip that. Okay, and then, but not 7E, the introduction of ordinance 4,
Right.
amending the city's whistleblower policies. So, we need a,
Deputy Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 4, 2019 series, an ordinance amending the personnel policies pertaining to catastrophic leave and whistleblower protection.
the ordinance been introduced by Councilor Dave Martin, and we will set a
Public hearing.
public hearing for that in the near future,
That'll be the first meeting in November.
1st of November to do that. Okay? So we've got old business, that's been taken care of, and now we are on item number 8, which is the city manager's report. Dennis?
So just to go through our list of items that we review each meeting. High Street has the asphalt as far as in the road portion, curb to curb, is complete. Sidewalks still remain, but we anticipate that will be done the next couple of weeks. The 2020 budget is still ongoing. We'll have the public forum tonight on some of the different departments. And Jane made a copy of this just as a reminder that during the public forum, the budget forums, the charter does outline that the public would be able to have an opportunity to speak to any of those items. So when we get to that on the agenda tonight, just be mindful that you need to entertain public comment on the budget.
On anything on under item 9.
Right. Okay. Union negotiations are ongoing. We'll talk with the council about a couple of those tonight in the executive session. 60 Access Highway, we'll need to have some discussion with the council on that as well this evening. We have received a verbal offer for the building, and we'll talk about that again in executive session. As far as the public safety building is concerned, we had a meeting on Friday where we met with, I believe it was 8 architectural firms that are interested in submitting information for a new police station. The closure for that bid is next week. And so we did give them until this Friday by, I believe it was 5 o'clock, to submit any questions that they have so that we can respond to those questions about the RFQ that went out. The LED conversion, we're still awaiting a date and time to have a final meeting with Realterm and R.L. Todd. They submitted to us a contract for maintenance services in which Realterm and R.L. Todd will monitor our LED lights. They'll process change-outs or maintenance issues, and they would do that for $50 a month. So $600 a year for them to do that, so that our Public Works Department wouldn't have to do that. That $50 a month does not include the actual cost of materials that might be needed to repair a light or replace a light, unless it was part of the LED change-out itself. But something that will be brought up through the budget process. The fire EMS structural study was completed, and the expenses that were noted in that study have been added to the capital expense budget, which again will be brought to you at a future date. Essentially, the structural engineer identified that the roof does need to be replaced, which was estimated at close to $75,000, and that there would need to be some structural shoring up of the building, estimated at $150,000, and then some additional work with regards to a retaining wall on site, estimated at about $35,000. We think some of that work we can do with our own crews, but we can talk some more about that when we get to the capital budget. Still waiting on some information or some contractors to come back onto the Birdseye site to help finish the cleanup there. We did meet with CES Inc. They've conducted the environmental study on the Birdseye site for us. When we submit for the brownfield application or for the grant through the EPA, we have to have updated environmental documents. So we've reached out to CES to update their documents, and we'll have to have some public hearings on that and make sure we get public comment before we submit that grant application back to the EPA. The events and marketing, just a reminder that the Caribou Arts and Craft Fair is coming up. Excited for that. We've talked about the potential of a dog sled race in Caribou. That has been taken back by Eagle Lake. The only reason why we were going to be doing it was they said that they were not, and where they've said they do want to put on their dog sledding race again this year, we said then we'll back off, and we won't try to create any competing event. We want to support any other cities that and their events that we can. Teague Park, or let's see, wage and classification policy, based on the feedback that was received during the Personnel Committee meeting last week, that's being drafted and will be brought back to the Council for consideration. At Teague Park, if you drove by late this afternoon, you may have noticed that there's fresh sod on the baseball fields. It was originally planned that that would be seeded, but with some cost savings in the project and favorable purchasing conditions, the contractor went ahead and bought sod instead of seeding it. So we hope that by next year we'll be able to fully utilize that park. The general plan update is ongoing. We had a good turnout at the visioning session a couple weeks ago and received some good comments on the goals and policies of the general plan. So Ken is working to get that updated and brought back to the planning board. We do have a couple of vacancies on the planning board, and we're aware of 2 planning board members that do not plan to renew their seats. And so we do need to get some new planning board members appointed. We've received 1 application this morning, so that will be coming back to you on your next agenda for consideration. Hilltop Senior Living, understand the interior work is being sheetrocked. It's probably almost done since I wrote this. And the Title 13 rewrites on hold right now through the budget season. And the airport, we had a very successful fall foliage event on October 6th. I had many visitors from Holton to Fort Kent that came down. We provided, I believe it was over 40 rides to over 80 passengers, and many people said, when are you going to do it again? And so when we'll talk with the volunteer pilots and try to figure something out, but it probably won't be until next year where they do a similar event. The Collins Pond Dam, as I understand, is kind of on hold right now. We're still working with. We did receive bids for engineering services on that, and we'll be working with Shane McDougall and his law firm to work on the design for that dam. We've put the pellet furnace system on hold as well. We still just haven't been able to get any response from the previous contractor that was working on that. So I don't know if you have any questions on any other projects that are going on.
Dennis, I just have this Hilltop Senior Living, have they given you any indication as to when they are going to open or start taking applications or anything for, do you have any idea of when that's going to be completed and they can start operations?
The last I spoke with Mr. Soderberg, he did not share any of that with me. I don't know if Ken has any additional information.
I had several people asking me, when are they going to start letting people apply for the place? So I was just wondering if they had a date.
I will. I'll pose the question and see if they give me a response.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other questions from council for the city manager and anybody else in the crowd? Okay. Thank you for the report, Dennis. Item number 9 is the budget forum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items on here. I've been informed that this will be open to public comment. The way I'd like to handle this is we'll go through each item. Dennis, and if anybody has any public comment, if they would approach the podium and address their comments, and I'd like the comments to be directed to the council, to the city manager, and not to any particular department heads that may be here. So with that, we will start off the budget forum with the library. Please.
Hi, I'm your librarian. Dennis and I really went over the budget. I'm actually, there's a lot of number moving around, but I'm actually only asking for $320 more. Last year, most of what you're finding an increase in is the computer maintenance. So last year I went and said, we don't actually utilize our IT people like everybody else. We don't have a server. So we actually pulled that out of the budget, but we had to be charged for it anyhow. So we just added it back in so everything stays in the black. And then we used the building maintenance reserve fund last year, and this year we want to add in an actual building maintenance fund, so I can buy light bulbs and pay for our security system and stuff like that. It is less than it was the previous year, only because we haven't been spending as much money. So, I did ask for $300 more in programming to bring my programming budget up to $1,000. It's been $700. We do between 25 and 40 programs overall a month at the library, and $700 isn't a lot. We do utilize the Dollar Tree when possible, but to bring an author up, for example, that usually costs $150 to $250. The ones that we've had recently have been wonderful, and they didn't ask for anything, and we just love them for it. But if possible, $300 more would be great. And then the other thing is my Amazon Prime went from $99 to $120. So that's the $20 that we added in. We buy probably 300 items via Amazon a year, maybe 350, and the average shipping is $4.99. So for $120, we save super gobs of money in not having to pay shipping. So are there any questions that that's my pitch. Any questions I can answer for you guys?
Does anybody from council have any questions regarding the library budget?
Nothing?
Anybody in the audience, in the public, have any questions regarding what has been presented? Well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
We'll move on to Budget Forum 9B, which is the Park, Recreation, and Snowmobile Trails budget.
Good evening, guys. and ladies. Looking down over the budget, most of our lines in the recreation side have stayed pretty much the same from last year and seem to have worked well. One of the lines that Dennis just touched on a while ago was the possible completion of Teague Park ball field. When this new news just came out yesterday that this ball field is being sodded. So there's a good chance that we'll have to redo electricity usage on Teague Park once again, because now it looks like we will possibly have the whole complete park for use in 2020, where last week we were thinking that we weren't going to be able to use much of it at all till 2021. So the electrical usage will probably get changed a little bit on the Teague Park side of the electricity, and possibly with the water as well, because now it looks like we're going to be able to utilize that everything next year. So there's going to be a change there. But as you go down through, pretty much kept everything the same as last year. Did increase the heating line at the rec center. We did go over because we used pellets last year. I haven't quite decided. Commission, and we discussed it with the commission the other day about possibly, we're not sure what we're going to do with the pellets this year. Our pellet boiler does work at the rec center. Worked very well last year. No hiccups once we started it up. Ran all year. So the cost savings of pellets and oil are pretty well the same. So not a boatload of savings with the pellets, but good news is our pellet boiler does work. Once we took the rag out of the auger, it worked fine.
That'll do it.
That will do it all the time. Going down through the reduce the building maintenance a little bit at the. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Unfortunately, these things photocopy front to back, and I'm always been a backwards person. Besides that, we have added a few things for the new splash pad maintenance for next year. We are in hopes of we're going to have that built late next summer, early fall, with a, we're not sure if we're going to be able to even open it for next year, depending on when we can get the ground broken. And then we did increase. No, sorry, wrong line. Wrong department. I got 2 more to go. So, does anybody have any questions of the 50 Recreation Department?
Just a question.
Yep.
On the splash pad, would that money basically come out of, we had the reserve account for the pool?
Yep. The money's been put away from the years that I don't believe we put the money away this past season. Which we're going to have to discuss that, but most of the money's coming out of the pool reserve account from when the pool has been closed. We were still putting the money away from operational, and we also received a generous donation from the Children's Discovery Museum, 3 going now on 2.5 years, about $78,000. That has to go towards this park. So we are getting closer, much closer. Yep.
Okay. That's all I have on that part. Anybody else?
Okay, I'll go to the 51 department, which is the Parks Department. We've again pretty much mirrored last year's budget lines. A few increases here and there. We've increased the heating oil line just a tad from last year to a $500 increase on heating oil. We do watch our usage in the heat in the shop. It's still turned off. We haven't turned the heat on in the shop yet, nor have we turned on the heat in the rec center. So if you see people complaining or wearing their sweaters, there's a reason. So I try not to heat as much as I possibly can in the month of October, because we all know it's going to be a long heating season. Building maintenance, we reduced the building maintenance on the park side a little bit from last year, but we did increase the equipment maintenance line. Shop is over 20 years old. It's 23, and the furnace is due for replacement. If we get through this winter, we are going to be very, very fortunate. Unfortunately, the business that owned that furnace is no longer in business, and parts are becoming very, very hard to come by. So we are getting prices as we speak for a new heat plant for that shop, possibly even looking into propane. So that's why that line has jumped considerably. New furnaces are not cheap these days, so we're getting bids from three different local companies, and we're just waiting to hear back from getting those prices. And the Civic beautification has gone up a little bit due to we want to redo our gateway enhancements at Fort Bridge, plus with the Patton Street Blight project, that will all tie in together and make that Fort Street intersection look very presentable, especially with now that Bird's Eye is no longer there. That intersection should be cleaned up and made to look a little prettier. Any questions on Department 51? Yes, sir.
The Fort Street
Yep.
gateway, you're talking about the Welcome to Caribou sign. Okay.
Yeah.
You also have the property kitty corner to that.
Yep.
That we own through tax sale and has a home that is already falling in on
Yep.
itself. That needs to be cleaned up. There's a lot of trees there that if we could open that whole intersection up a little bit, beautify it.
Correct.
More than just the gateway sign itself.
Right.
Really dress that up.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 And I can touch on the snowmobile trail maintenance, which is out of the economic department's side, but it does fall under our jurisdiction. Pretty much everything is remaining the same in that line. Obviously, the salaries are going up salaries are going up a little bit. They got to be adjusted due to the minimum wage. We pretty much pay our drivers minimum wage, and I think there was a few little increases on the equipment repairs and stuff. We do all of our own repairs in-house as much as we can, and so that's where you see a few increases here and there. And again, this is a working budget until it gets passed, so we're going to keep massaging it as we move forward. So, any questions?
Any questions on the snowmobile budget? Anybody from the public? Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, the next on the budget forum will be 9C, which is the Housing and Family Self-Sufficiency Programs.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Smith and Council. We're here to talk a little bit about housing and family self-sufficiency. As you notice, there's really not that much change in our budget from last year to this year. Salaries have stayed the same. There have been some minor changes in paper and printing costs. A little bit difference between the manager's numbers and our numbers. The big difference we'll see this year is $14,000 that kind of sticks out there. This is due to our software, our client tracking software company has been absorbed by an even larger company. There'll be a full changeover, and we'll have to pay for software and licensing this year. Our auditing costs should be approximately the same. We actually asked for a little bit more, but last year they came in at $1,500. Our mileage is down a little bit from average. We'll work through that. Something else that has changed between the requested and managers is we took part in a beta test for electronic inspections this year. Basically what we'll see from HUD is when they get the bugs out, they'll be doing these electronic inspections and moving towards a paperless type environment. So the cost of that tablet would have been $750. And really, we're up just a tiny little bit from last year overall. Any questions regarding housing?
Any questions from council? Ken, regarding housing, anybody from the public?
Family self-sufficiency should go really quick. Basically, there are no changes. Salaries remain the same. Our very own Sue Willett does an excellent job in counseling and helping people graduate from Section 8 into actual home ownership. We're working on having some good victories in that this year. Get people out there actually owning their own home and paying their taxes.
That's good.
Any questions, the family? But really, no change from last year.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. That covers housing and family self-sufficiency programs. And now item 9D, it's going to be tax assessing.
With Penny not being here, I can walk you through a little bit. She may feel slighted if she doesn't get to come back and actually speak to you as a council.
We'll make sure of that. When he gets back, we don't want to.
But essentially, what's happening here, in 2019, we anticipated a large amount of funds for a contract employee, a plumbing inspector, a commercial inspector. We don't anticipate the same amount of funds necessary for him this year. So as far as where the whole regular pay number comes from, you'll see that it is up about 18% from last year. Majority of that comes from we've spent the last year getting Penny trained to do mass appraisals and being able to begin working on the quarterly assessing update reports for the city. Last year we talked as a council about looking long-term at the revaluation process that some cities have to go through, and those can be very expensive. And rather than setting aside funds in a reserve account for that revaluation, looking at how can we incorporate the training necessary and the software, computers, and the personnel to do that in-house and save the city money long-term. And so what's been proposed this year is that we hire a part-time assessing staff to come in and begin helping Penny with some of that paperwork that she needs as far as cleaning things up, going out on sites, helping Penny and Tony do what they need to so we can start that quarterly review process. And so that really is the difference there in the wage increase for this department. And corresponding changes are shown for Social Security and retirement. A part-time person would not be getting any retirement, but we have to show the Social Security changes. We've also I've put in $500 for legal fees. We just never know sometimes with the assessing and what needs to happen there. Most of the legal fees from the city fall under the general government legal, and so we'll reevaluate having anything in this department as we get into further review of this. The professional dues have stayed again roughly the same as far as a total. There are with each certificate that Penny and Tony and Ken have, there are annual recertifications that they would have to go through or additional tests, and so that's where those funds are coming from. We did assign one of the city's fleet vehicles to this department, and it's getting kind of old, and they have it in the shop a couple of times a year, and so you'll see some additional costs in there for the fuel, the oil, vehicle maintenance. We do have in here a cost to provide Penny as far as the capital is concerned with an upgraded computer that will enable her to run GIS software, and that GIS software will enable her to actually look at the parcel data and analyze where there might be some inconsistencies in valuation within neighborhoods, and again, further help her out in her evaluation processes. So there's additional costs in there for that computer and the software that she would need to do that. Overall, the department is looking right now at about a 16% increase over the 2018 budget, with most of that being that new part-time person that would come in and help out with the quarterly revaluation process.
So it's $134,000 per year jump. How much of that is the staff? That's the overall jump.
Calculator. So you're looking at close to 36,000, 40,000 for the part-time staff person with the Social Security attached to it and
That's
the
the
wages.
complete cost of the employee.
Right.
The number, but by doing this and not going out to another company for the assessing, there was some scandalous amount, wasn't it, to have another?
We were anticipating the revaluation taking place, I believe, in 2027, and needing to set aside about $43,000 a year, each year, to help pay for that.
So the,
So almost $300,000.
Okay, I remember the 300,000 numbers. I was thinking, so I wrote down.
We also moved. No, sorry, just checked myself.
So the additional part-time staff is 36 to 40,000. That leaves about another additional 100, almost 100,000.
So right. I guess also we need to, point out that the 2019 budget number that you have here is the number after we took a bunch of things out through the mill rate process. And one of those things that we took out of this department in that process was a huge chunk from the contracted services. And so if we were to show you the number that this department had December of 2018, it actually is a higher budget number that the council approved last year. But we went through that mill rate cutting process, and so what you're seeing is the after the mill rate budget number. But we can, as far as the extra 70,000, you have, again, the computer and the software, that's maybe $3,000 of that. They do anticipate having some additional trainings this year, which, again, is probably an extra couple of $1,000s. I'll go through my spreadsheets, and when Penny comes back, I'll have a full answer for you.
Any more questions regarding tax assessing, Manuel? Okay. Got that one down.
I'm going to open that up to the public.
Oh, does anybody in the public have any questions for the tax assessing? Okay. And and as you mentioned, we'll bring that back at a later point when Penny's available for input.
She probably has a PowerPoint all done on this.
Probably.
She doesn't? She's not doing one? Oh,
Okay, so 9E, economic development. Dennis.
Okay. The biggest change with economic development is that currently the half of the city manager's wages are being pulled from TIF funds, and those would be shown typically in the economic development line. this budget, the proposal is to move all of the city manager's wages into general government rather than have them be pulled from the TIF funds. What that does is it basically frees up roughly $50,000 of tax increment funds that can be applied to other economic development activities. That being said, the struggle is that the TIF dollars come in, and that means that we're utilizing what would have been county and state dollars to help fund these activities, and in a sense, that was helping to fund the manager's position. To move half of my wages out of the economic development funds means that there's another $50,000 of the city's general budget that you're trying to make up for. But you can then use that $50,000 for other activities. Right now, that's why you have such a significant decrease in the wages or the salaries within this department, a 36% decrease. The general office supplies has gone down. Computer maintenance. One of the things we looked at here was the GIS license. Ken's has a GIS license that would now be pulled out of the tax assessing department rather than the tax increment. The professional dues, again, is reduced. And again, part of that is pulling some of Ken's dues that were being paid out of tax increment into the tax assessing department. Travel expenses, again, reduced from last year. And again, some of that is the moving of expenses that were attributed to the city manager's training over into general government as well. As far as the special events and programs, Christina's here tonight, and she can talk with you about what she sees happening that way.
Mostly just shifting. The biggest change for me will be Thursdays on Sweden Street. We're losing Cytel's contribution. Past couple of years, this past year they contributed $12,500, and the past 2 years before that it was $15,000. So I'm a little nervous about that. I have had several businesses talk about, and this past year we did sponsored nights. Some businesses have expressed interest in doing that again. So that could, help with some of those funds, but that's the only one that I've really put up a lot. I think I asked for $4,000 more in that line. Is that right, Dennis?
Yes.
Looking at okay. And then a few other just shifting things around. We will have a Story of Caribou event this year, which will be our contribution to Maine's 200 celebration. I have applied for a few grants for that, but haven't heard back yet. So I asked if we could cut some of the Winter Carnival money and put like half that line and put some of that in Story of Caribou, and then some of the Caribou Days money. For Caribou Days, there's a lot in there. It's just too much, really. For Winter Carnival, attendance has been down. Last year, we really reeled it in a lot. This year, Gary and I haven't talked much about what we're going to do yet, but in anticipation of kind of reeling it in, that's where that came from. And then I think that was it. Everything else I left. It's been a little tough with some of the new tariffs and things. A lot of the promotional items I purchase, come from China, and with new tariffs, some of the prices have gone up. A lot of the companies take those tariffs themselves, but some things I order for Marathon were a little bit more expensive, but that's pretty much it on my end.
You will see in this budget where, again, we've been able to free up some of those TIF dollars. You'll see a contribution of proposed of $40,000 into the city's revolving loan fund. In the past, that has been as much as $50,000. Under the TIF programs that were approved by the state, we can build up to $1 million in that revolving loan fund. And right now, we're about halfway there. So being able to put another installment toward, in that we already have put aside a bunch of money into that revolving loan fund, or a couple of revolving loan funds. So this helps continue to build that fund up a little bit. Also, we propose to put an extra $10,000 toward the slum and blight removal. That we're looking at next year. We have 8 homes. Is that right, Ken? 8 homes that need to come down next year that we tax acquired and are again falling in upon themselves. We don't anticipate, well, we've already done the asbestos studies on them. We know there's not asbestos in them except for 2. And so we're hoping it will be more just a cleanup cost. We have talked with Dave Willett in Public Works. They've indicated that if there's a rainy day next year and they can get to 1 or 2 of these homes, they can do that, and that would certainly help with some of the costs of tearing these down. We've also put more money, proposed to put more money into the facade improvement program. The last couple of years, we've put $12,000 into that. We've had one business owner express interest in those funds, but we're still waiting for them to actually come forward with what they're proposing to do. But we know the VMS building is looking for a face lift. The Rosignol preschool, Ms. Jordan's preschool, is looking for a facelift, and so we want to put some additional funds into that program. There's also, with the new fire station line, again, this is one of those that the state has allowed us to begin setting aside up to $1 million of funds toward a new fire station. Last year we set aside $60,000. The year before that, we put another sum of money toward it. This year, proposing to put $50,000 toward it, again, just trying to start building up that reserve fund for when the day comes that we need a new fire station. The project we talked about earlier tonight, a new police station, these funds currently cannot be utilized for that project. That will have to be a different set of funding that we're able to, or that we need to raise or pull together.
So none of that 50 or whatever we're putting there on the bottom can be used. It has to be exclusive for the fire department.
Right. So overall, right now, we're showing a reduction of roughly 3%. The TIF dollars, the way that works is those TIF dollars will roll in with the tax season. And so we're going to get a portion of the county taxes and the state taxes, and it basically rolls into this pot that if it's more than that amount, it simply stays in the pot and we continue to build up the TIF funds. But as far as actual expenditure of those TIF funds, these are the dollars that we're proposing for next year.
Any questions from the public on the economic development presentation? Questions? Not any questions from council?
Are some of the buildings coming down this year? The blighted house is coming down this year.
We have, Ken, you want to address that?
We're hoping that 2 will come down this season still. So we're waiting on our contractors to finish up their late season work and get back to us.
The one by the bridge coming down? No, not this year.
No, the asbestos ones will come down.
Okay.
And so we're waiting on our asbestos contractor and then our demolition guy.
Gotcha.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, that concludes the economic development portion of our budget forum this evening. And we'll go to the last item under the budget forum, which is general government and buildings.
Before I start into this, I did send out an email earlier today. I know it's very late notice that Chief Gahagan can't make it to the next meeting, and we would like to, if we can, have him walk you through his budget. I have handouts tonight we can give to the council as well as to the public to review. Just allow him to give his 2 cents, and we can have it on the next agenda for additional discussion if you'd like. 4 cents?
Okay.
But
It's more than 4 cents.
More than 4 cents?
Copies.
Well, we talked about this.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor, Council. We show a reduction in our salary line because of the retirement of Sergeant Vincent, 21,000. Salary for the other officers is still being negotiated through union, so we're not set with that yet. Basically, it's some of the things here is professional dues go up. I have now 3 drug recognition officers that have to be recertified, school resource officer that has to be recertified, and myself. So again, training and education, an increase of $500 just because of officers now are being specialized in their training. And unfortunately, most of the training is at the academy or downstate. That ends up costing us more money.
Chief, just to clarify, so training and education, if you look at line 11, last year it was 23,000 budgeted, and it's proposed to the 25,000 because of those training costs.
Yeah, it is the increase of more officers, younger officers that doesn't have the experience that needs that training. And like I said, unfortunately, it's all downstate. So, but what we do end up is they become train the trainers. They can come back and train the other officers, so we don't have to send as many officers to those schools. Health insurance, that's based on an 8% increase in health insurance. I have no control over that part of the budget. Again, property insurance, we anticipate an increase there. Workers' comp, 7% increase. These are all things that's beyond our control. State retirement, again, we're going to a 6% for the officers.
By state mandate?
State mandated, yeah. We have no control over that. Vehicle repair, we have an older fleet. We have one vehicle that has 192,000 miles on it. So it costs us to keep them on the road. That's one for capital. That's going to be one major increase. We're looking now at a minimum of $38,000 for a cruiser, and it costs us about $5,000 to change our things over, so it's around $43,000. So
is that a scheduled replacement? Like
it is,
do every
yeah,
year,
yeah.
Basically replacing a cruiser every year.
We try to replace it every year, but we also look for better deals, used cruisers. I have a demo that we're looking at right now that would be half that price, but it has 60,000 miles on it. So, but it may suffice us for next year. So we might be able to not have to buy one until 21. Kind of depends on how they hold up. Everything else is basically video equipment. By state statute it's requiring us to video and record all A, B, and C crimes. Before, the law only said that we had to record serious crimes. It's like personal injury crimes. Now we're going to have to record all A, B, and C crimes. The statute originally wanted us to record witnesses and the victims, but now it's just the victims and the perp. So the other thing that we have is now half the department is wearing body cams. So every time we have a case, the district attorney requires 3 copies of the video. So that's what adds up. Drug testing, we're requesting 13. That's what we're paying now. We have to send out any drugs to be tested. If it's alcohol, we can do it in state. If it's any other drugs, it has to go out of state and be tested. It's $750 a pop. So the other increase was warranties on our cameras and the cruisers. It's a $2,000 increase. The cameras just, if they break down, it costs us more to have them fixed than to pay for the warranty. So it was a good deal. Any questions on the police?
Anybody from the public have any questions regarding the police budget that's presented?
You mentioned mandates. Do you know what years some of these kicked in and how expensive were they?
Like what mandate? Like the drug testing or what?
Well, you just mentioned that there were mandates that kicked in that.
Yeah.
The things that.
So the videoing, that went in September this year, went into effect. When all the new laws came into effect, that's why we have to anticipate the increase on the video. We have one room that's all set up to video, but it's making copies and just getting everybody in. Also, the mandate now, or has been, but they're holding us feet to the fire, is anytime we charge somebody for a criminal crime, we have to fingerprint them. So they have to be brought in. That every individual that has a criminal now has to be fingerprinted. So that, again, that's time and that we're doing. But again, this is the state, what they're requiring.
Just well, this is kind of a blanket question, but the health insurance going up 7.5%, is that going to be a trend for all? Is that going to be all departments? Are we assuming that, or is it just police?
No, we've assumed an 8% increase in all health insurance. Just hopefully it's conservative. Last year we received a notice from the health insurance, from Maine Municipal Association, and they said that your insurance could go up anywhere from 5 to, I think, 13%. And we lucked out, and it was at the low end of that. It was only about, was it 5 or 4? 5.7. Okay. So we're expecting another similar letter from the health insurance this year, and right now we've thrown in an 8% increase. Hopefully it comes in lower than that, but it would be across the board with all departments.
Just remember, our school resource officer is almost 3/4 paid by the school department, so that's a reimbursement. It's almost like having an officer free. I'm fortunate that our department is full. I think I'm the only department in the county that has a full active department. So I'm knock on wood throughout the state. I'm lucky. The other one is emergency management. We don't see an increase. Actually, we see a decrease of 4.5% from last year. Everything else is status quo. And that was because of janitorial. We're sharing janitor with the highway. Emergency management is one of those departments that I hope you never have to use, but you always have to have it. In today's world, there's a lot of actually training that we all have to do because of it.
I was there today.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Chief, would you mind just repeating the question for
The question is how many prisoners we have in a run of a year. Right off the top of my head, I can't tell. I know we have 2 or 3 every day. So I am the only other jail besides the county jail in the county. Everybody north brings them down to us, and we hold them. We have a good arrangement with the sheriff's office that they come and pick them up every other day.
So you have over 1,000 a year.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, it's an active jail. We're fortunate that we have the officers that can manage them, and we get good cooperation from the other departments.
You get reimbursed, or you get money
We do.
for the,
We charge a fee for housing other departments' prisoners, unless it's a warrant. If they arrest them on a warrant, I didn't think it was proper. So if it's a warrant from downstate and Limestone arrests them, I don't think it's fair for Limestone to pay to house them. But we make up a difference from all the other prisoners. They pay for the meals and the housing. So.
Any other questions? Anyone regarding the police?
I do want to highlight that under the police department, we do have a line in there for the dog constable. And you'll see that in the spreadsheet, it shows a 145% increase. The amount that we're showing in the budget is $6,760. That is the amount that we would need to hire a part-time animal control officer all year. Currently, we're blessed to have an individual who volunteers their time to act as our animal control officer. And you can see in last year's budget, it shows $2,760. Well, when it came to meal time in 2019 and looking at the meal rate, we were able to, in a sense, cut that line item down because we didn't need those additional funds for the rest of the year. And so that's why you'd see that significant jump between the 2760 and the 6760. We plan for the full budget year having to pay somebody, but as long as that individual's working for us.
Yeah, and he has to be certified, so we pay for all his certification and all his education also. So, we're fortunate to have people that volunteer in those capacities that has that actual expertise.
Now, and something falls through partway through.
Yeah, just because, again, this is another one of those statutes that we're required to have a animal control officer for those chickens and goats that get away. That's the 4 cents, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, so that concludes the budget forum portion of this evening's agenda. So
Well, unless you want to do the general government, we have that ready for you too.
let's do it.
Just get it done.
You got it, let's do it.
The handout that I gave you with the police department, it also includes a very small department that is referred to as the public protection. And this fund includes our street lights and our hydrant fees. We did complete the LED conversion process this year, and we anticipated in 2019 a reduction in the power cost. And so you can see that in 2019 we budgeted $76,000. We're on track to reach $86,000, and that's because we weren't able to complete that LED conversion as fast as we were hoping to in 2019. For conservative purposes, we've left the budget the same in 2020 at the $76,550. We're hoping that we'll come in under that. We're still waiting for Emera's first bill that actually reflects what our monthly bill is going to be. But we're hoping that it will be less than that budgeted amount. There is a line in here for maintenance. With the LED heads themselves, if any of them have a failure, it's still under warranty and those would be replaced. But we have to pay for any materials that get used, and so we're starting to build in a maintenance fund related to the street lights. Also, that $5,500 would include the $600 contract with Real Term and R.L. Todd, where they would handle the the complaint process or the logging of maintenance work that needs to be done. And so that's where that 5,500 comes from.
So on the streetlights, you're budgeting the 76,550 until we know there's going to be a savings, but until we know exactly what the savings is that?
Right, we're hoping that before the end of this year, we'll get a truer picture of what our monthly bill is going to be. And by the December budget, when the final budget comes to you, we're hoping we'll have a more refined number there for you. Yep. The currently with the hydrant fees, we've just built in a potential 2% increase for that. We're still waiting for the CD to send an actual number to us for next year. So that's that department.
Does the public have any questions on protection, Milo?
Well, I don't know if it's protection, but I'm looking at this. CEM rent, what is that?
That's emergency management. We used to be able to get reimbursement from the state for that. They did away with.
So you don't have it no more?
No.
It says, I thought it was 100% up.
No, we don't.
Okay. I'm late on the questions, but I just got this.
Any other questions regarding the protection of the council or the public? Okay, so now we'll go to the next one, general government buildings, I believe.
So under general government, the biggest cost difference here, again, is the salaries. And most of that, we have several things that are happening this year, we anticipate in 2020. One is, again, moving all of the city manager's wages into general government rather than partially in TIF. But also, we anticipate that Jane is at some point going to turn in her keys and walk out the door, hopefully not before her retirement date. But
I don't want the chief after me.
okay. We know that Jane is going to be retiring. We're anticipating there will be another individual who will be retiring in the general government funds, and so we'll have some turnover, which will create some reduction in salaries, but it creates an opportunity for us to move the manager's wages into this department without a significant impact to all of those wage lines. The council salaries. Jane proposed a $500 reduction for the council salary, so that's her fault if you don't use that.
It's based on the number of meetings that they've had.
Yes. So we haven't been calling as many meetings, so there is a slight reduction there to the council salaries, but each meeting that you attend we keep track of, and by charter you'll be reimbursed for your time as council members attending those. As other government legal fees, we've kept legal fees the same from last year's budget. We don't anticipate major legal battles in 2020. Hopefully we'll see some wrapping up that we've been dealing with. And so we've left that budget the same. The computer maintenance fund, what that is our contract with Oakleaf and Trio. And those funds we're estimating a slight increase for those, possibly. It's just the contracts for services there. Hosted services would include our internet, our Microsoft accounts, and those, again, the slight increases just from the changes that we're seeing with software licensing. Other major increases, some of these are very small items, but again, health insurance, looking at a possibly $13,000 increase, and that's because of the number of employees that are covered under general government and the specific health plans that they've chosen. We've tried to correct some of the accounts, such as the miscellaneous expenses, put a reduction in there for that. The workers' comp is another one of those funds that is based upon the insurer's what the quote they're giving to us. So we've estimated a 7% increase in workers' comp across the board in all the departments.
Similar to the same as the health insurance.
Right.
It'd be a blanket city policy, pretty much.
Right. The bottom line, well, I guess before we get to that, we do have 2 fleet vehicles that we still cover out of the general government. Both of those are, again, going up in years. One of them was a police cruiser that we got a good deal on, and have had to spend a lot of time in the shop with it, trying to get some things repaired. But we do have in the capital plan for general government looking at replacing one of those vehicles, not in 2020, but in 21. And so we'll share that with you when that time comes. So the bottom line for the general government is a cost increase of roughly $60,000. Most of that being the moving of the manager's wages into this fund and the insurance cost changes.
I would like to address elections because there is a substantial increase in elections. We have 3 elections next year. We have the presidential preference primary, March 3rd. We have a primary in June, and then the November election. I'm expecting like the presidential preference primary will cost about $2,650. I'm also, when we do ads in the newspaper, for instance, the November election, you start with the nomination papers, you have an ad in there for absentee ballots being available, and that we have extended hours. And when you put the ballot in, that's $1,000 going to the newspaper. So when people question about ads, just know that just to have those run a week, the ballot question itself just runs 1 week. We're talking $1,000. The other big item in that budget, and I will not be here for that, for the November one, but is the state provides 2 tabulators. When I came to work here, it was 3. When the state went from the system that they were using to this DS-200 that we are using currently, they took one of them away. They said Connor Township did not need a tabulator. But, you know, we use that tabulator for the city's election also. So we went from the 3 to the 2. I had never come to the council saying I'd like to rent or lease a 3rd tabulator. The one thing I learned from last November's election for the midterms is that we need a 3rd machine. We need a 3rd machine because they cannot, with ranked choice voting, program the thumb drives to have each machine accept municipal ballots and the state ballots. So last year we had 1 machine for the municipal ballot, 1 machine for the state ballot. We also had a blue metal ballot box, and we called it the drop and run. You trusted us, if you dropped your ballot in that blue box, locked, that your ballot would be put in the tabulator at the end of the evening, which it was. But it took staff putting those ballots in nonstop to about 10 o'clock from just after 8. We need a 3rd machine, and I've put money in there to lease a 3rd machine for next year. The state's lease for the DS-200, the tabulators that we use now, ends at the end of the year, and they're going out for an RFP to have a new machine. So we will be having a new machine sometime next year. I've put in a dollar amount to lease a machine. I've been given the price from the company for that DS200. It would probably cover a new machine. But that is the biggest takeaway I took from last November's election. It is that ranked choice voting makes the difference in the machines. And even we had to lease thumb drives. And you might go, hey, a thumb drive, you can go to Walmart. Nope. Thumb drives, they're used in the machines. They cost like $100 to lease them. Okay? We own a couple thumb drives too, but we've had to lease thumb drives. And I make estimates for what it's going to be for wages. Of course, the minimum wage is going up at the beginning of the year. That has made a substantial difference in the cost of elections since I came to work here when I think it was $7.50 an hour, now going to $12. So, wages, advertising, ballots. Ballots cost about 25 cents a piece. About 25 cents a piece. They are 25 cents a piece. And thumb drives and leasing another machine. So those are our expenses.
Ian? Do we have any more?
The one positive note is 3 elections next year, all of them being a state thing. The county will pay us for one more election, running one more election. So we'll have over another $1,000 revenue to help offset the cost of that presidential primary. So yay on county.
Is that anything else to add on the Dennis or Jane on this?
You have anything, Carl?
No. Anybody in the audience have any questions regarding what was just presented to us? Council? Okay.
And the last one we wanted to touch on tonight was the municipal building budget. And this is primarily an annual maintenance fund that we have that covers this building and the Lions building. And so within this fund, this is where you're going to find the water and the sewer costs for this building and, as I said, the Lions building. The heating cost we are anticipating going up a little bit in the Lions building. The heating fuel costs as well for this building. Electricity, again, small amount, maybe a 2% increase there. Water, we've looking at the trends that we've had in our water usage, we think we can cut the water budget by about 10%. The sewer, again, cutting it by a little over 8%, based on what we've seen there as far as historic usage. The building supplies would stay the same. Building maintenance costs, some of the things that we're looking at with that, we have around this building, you've probably noticed the pink hose tower that we have outside now. That cost is all being absorbed in this budget year. But next year, we do have items around this building. There's several places where the sidewalk needs to be replaced. Down around the police station, it's cracked and heaved in different places, creating some accessibility issues, as well as in the front. And so we'd like to get some of those cleaned up. There's also, on a clear day, you'll notice the paint job around the outside of this building. It's not actually just paint. It's actually a foundation finish rub that is on the building and is now falling off in places. We need to get that repaired. And so we're looking at next year to increase the building maintenance fund from what was $7,500 to over $19,000 so that we can take care of the sidewalk issues and the exterior finish on this building. So overall, you're looking at a 28% increase, or roughly a $16,000 increase to the building maintenance fund. We'll probably also want to look at the Lions building ramps and asphalt sidewalks that they have outside of it, they're starting to fall apart as well, but we may be able to get another year out of those. If we can, we'll put both of the sidewalk out to bid at the same time and see if we can get a price that comes into the budget and just take care of them both at the same time. That's all I had on that one.
Municipal building, any input from the public? Council? That's good. I think that's all. Do we have anything else, manager, for the budget?
Not for the
presentation?
budget. We'll have a similar number of departments for your next agenda for consideration. Plus the capital. We'll bring all of the capital projects to you next meeting.
Perfect, okay. So that's concluded. Okay, item number 10, reports and discussion by mayor and council members. The definition of economic development, I don't have anything to put on that myself, so. Do you have anything?
That was something that Mayor Gahn had asked to be on there, so
Table it?
We'll table that until he's available. I don't know what he had in mind on that. Number 11, reports of officers, staff, boards, and committees. Is in our packet.
Number 10
Number 10, yes.
is council members
Oh,
of other
yes.
business.
Yeah, go right ahead. Excuse me.
Yes, I had a discussion last Friday with Dr. Valerie Waldermarson. She's the Jobs for Maine grads instructor at Caribou High School, and the JMG up there is holding a business forum for students and local businesses on October 25th. There'll be over 650 students from Caribou, Fort, and Presque Isle, and the high school and the middle school. There are over 40 groups attending, including Bath Iron Works, the Border Patrol, the McCain's, MMG, and also attending will be Troy Jackson, President of the Senate, Trey Stewart, Presque Isle Representative, Dave McRae, Fort Fairfield Representative, and John DeVoe, Caribou Representative. And she wanted to, she says, Dave, I know you know this, but I just wanted to mention that Christina Kane Gibson has been amazing through this process and always steps up to help make these events amazing for students. She makes sure that we have swag to hand to the kids for the City of Caribou, that we have visual things to promote the events, and is always providing me pointers on how to make this bigger and better each year. With that being said, it would be wonderful if the city manager, the mayor, and members of the city council attend this event to show support for the students, the school, and the businesses in attendance. So again, that's Friday, October 25th, from 8:15 a.m. to 10:30.
Or 25th from 10 a.m. to 1?
8 a.m. to 10:30
That's right at the
at the high school.
at the high school.
Thank you.
Is this already is this on our city website and
It's
or on the City of Caribou website? Is that something we could put on there?
I don't know if it's on the website because it's for students really, but we'll have a City of Caribou booth, we'll have a police department booth, and I believe there's a fire department booth. Have you heard? So you can come hang out with any of us.
We have a booth. CUD is a booth. Cool. Okay, since I looked at, does anybody else on the council have anything they'd like to bring up? Okay. And now we'll go to the report of officers, staff, boards, and committees. These are all.
I have a couple things.
Absolutely, Jane, go ahead.
Number one, today, October 15th, is the first day that we can license dogs for 2020. So come in and license your dog. Your dog's tag will be put in for a drawing that we will have for all dogs that have been licensed by the end of December. Okay. Number two, absentee ballots are available in the clerk's office between now and the close of business on Halloween, October 31st. And we will have extended hours on October 31st. We will be open from 5 to 7 that evening to have absentee balloting, plus registering people to vote. So call, go on to print off the application off the city's website for an application for a ballot and send it to us, or go to the state's absentee balloting request. You can get through the Secretary of State or come in our office. And again, they're available until the end of business, extended hours, Halloween.
Thank you, Jane.
We may have some candy. I hope to not be tricked.
Doesn't sound good, Jim.
It didn't sound good. Okay. Christina, do we have a candidates forum? And when is that being held?
The 24th.
The 24th here at City Council Chambers, from what time?
It will be October 24th at 6 p.m. It doesn't really have an end time. We try to cap it at like 12 questions. People can send me their questions. Some have come in through Facebook. And Jason Parent will be the moderator.
So they can come in and sit in the audience?
Yeah.
Or we'll be able to see it on YouTube?
Yes.
And that is council candidates only?
Yes.
Okay. I got my announcements.
Anything else from any of the other departments to bring up? Any questions from council?
I just have a comment. I went by the dog park today, and the big dog park, there's a tractor tire. How big are the dogs? I mean, do the people go in with the dog? Or? Very nice, though.
It was very busy there again this afternoon.
So, I guess that's all. Do we have any other business?
Next meeting?
Next meetings are October 28th and November. It's going to be, is that around
11th. That's Veterans Day. 12th.
November 12th, we'll set those, the next meeting dates. And we'll need a motion to go into executive session for the first one, for the economic
Deputy Mayor, I
development.
move to go into executive session to discuss economic development and real estate under 405.6C.
Into executive session at 7:58.
Who seconded that?
Oh, we need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Vote. All in favor?
All of them,
Everybody for coming this evening?
okay. Okay, and button off.